Hi, my name is Yadel, mostly called Danna, and you are watching Konect Live Stories. I live in Kenya as a refugee, and my sister came to Australia 10 years before me, and we had no other person supporting her but her. So she claimed us to Australia. So I actually live in Kenya as refugee for 19 years, and then I live in Nairobi for another 3 years, 4 years, and then I moved to Australia under my sister's sponsorship. Living in Kenya, I can say, as a refugee, it's actually gave me a foundation. I don't like to concentrate on the bad side of it. The life wasn't as good as always, but it's actually, we had a starting point where you can like study your life and everything. Many of us had opportunities to go to school, and I can say, like, so many people, like, we didn't have too much, to live on, but we had enough from UNHCR, like in form of ratio, and that ratio was like, it was given to person for 15 days, and then you have to wait for another 15 days, which but actually my mom was pretty good, so she's always find extra food for us, and I don't think we've me and my sisters has actually ever gone without food for a day or anything, but other people did actually. We went to school as well in refugee camp until my sister came to Australia, and then she took us to school to study in a like Kenyan school, like a school that were not refugee school. So that's how that was my brief life. But apart from, like, people, like, it was like no matter how long we live in Kenya, we were not actually accepted. We could have been citizens, but there's no that system with the government. And I came from Kenya. I live as refugee. There were no opportunities. Even when we were living in Nairobi, we didn't have opportunities of getting employment. Yeah. I had just finished, I could only finish my high school. And when I came to Australia, I was so excited to start life. And I thought there was, like, when we were told, when we were coming to Australia, we were told about how good it is and how easy it could be. We come to realize that wasn't real, because people tend to see, like, we were thinking, like, everything would be like ready and we just jumped into. But when we came here, like, it's I had to find a pathway, because I had been out of school for, like, for some time, only having complete my high school in Kenya. And so I have to find a pathway and how to get a job. And so it wasn't easy. It took me like my visa that I came on was quite complicated, because it's under sponsorship of my sister, and I was also like an adult, so I didn't have any access to any government support or anything. So I had to find a job to support myself. And I knew, as well, as we come here, we know people back home also depend on us. So I had to get a job, and that job I had to find a pathway. So I had to do a certificate. And that certificate took me, like, it's take everyone else 6 months, like between 3 to 6 months. But it's actually took me longer, because people actually judge me. They, like, they were thinking, like, when they look at me as a dark-skinned person and a black person, they just didn't even want to give me the chance to get into the placement. So that was really it was difficult. And I have realized that's what many of people who come under private visas and like student visas, spousal visas, that's what they go through, because they have to look after themselves. They have to find jobs, and then those jobs sometimes they're not there, so you get really frustrated. So that's what I had to go through. A lot of discrimination in the job industries. Some people didn't even want to give me a chance to get a job, or even just to give me an interview. That was so hard. So it took me uh, over 8 months to do my certificate 3 in aged care, which then those days it used to take only like it would take 14 weeks to 6 months. So it wasn't easy. Um, so one day I walked into a place where I was gonna do my placement, and they said to me, "Oh, the person who was gonna give you induction or orientation is not here." And I could see other people like they were getting in, so I get really upset, and I call one of the ladies that actually helped my sister get me to Australia. Her name is Maggie. So I called her and I told her the situation, how I've been going from one place to another, and they just keep turning me off. And when I called her, she said to me, "Tell me the name of the organization." And I told her the name of the organization, and she said, "What about the name of your place where you're doing your course?" And I told her the name of the place that I'm doing my course. And she said, "Can you give me the course coordinator's number?" So I gave her all that. And after that, she called the school, and then she called the place, and they were like, "Oh, it's because of her English." And she was like, "What's wrong with her English? She has a very good English. She can speak well, she can write, she can read. How could she do certificate 3 without reading and writing, and you're coming to say her English is not good?" And then she actually ended up calling the institution that I was in, and then the institution said that it wasn't actually about my language, it was about my skin color. And the lady was this lady, having worked with so many refugees of different backgrounds, she wasn't really happy, and so she said, "This is discrimination. I'm giving you people until the end of this week." It was like Wednesday. So she said, "Until the end of this week, I want you people to find her placement place. It doesn't matter. Her skin doesn't have to make her not get what she wants when she has all the skills." So after that, that's when this lady, the following day, she called me and she said, "Oh, I have found a placement place for you." So yeah, that's how I end up getting placement place. And after getting my placement place, she actually offered me a job, because she realized I was really good at what I was doing. And but I turned that job down because she wanted me to wait for a few weeks, and I really needed money to support myself. So I applied for a different job, and they took me in, and that's how I got my feet into employment industry. After that, it wasn't so hard anymore because I had the references from work, and that's how, like, even if I just apply today, maybe I can get a call in next 2 weeks. But before, it was so hard, to get into. So you always have to get some kind of connection. Yeah, I felt really bad because I was like, okay, they said this is land of freedom, and this is land that is free, and there's a lot of human right here. And I was like, why there's so much discrimination? Why did they have to discriminate against me before they even get to know me? And I would understand when you see some people getting really depressed in this country, because I'm a kind of person who don't take things personal. I just keep moving. If something is not working, I try a different thing. But it's actually like, if I didn't have a good support system behind me, like my sisters and this lady that is like my mother, called Maggie, and all the ladies that she knew, they were also supporting me behind the scene. I would have I would have thought every white person in this country is the same, but then because of that support, it gave me strength. But I had to cry for a few days. It wasn't easy. Yep. Yeah, it's not everyone that is refugee come to this country as a refugee. My sister came on a humanitarian visa. It's a different type of visa that brought her here. Me, I came on a family visa. It's called the last remaining family, like a last remaining relative visa, because I was adult. My younger sisters came under my sister's sponsorship as well, but they came under different visa because they were still minors. In this country, people come they would come like asylum seekers come in different ways as well. There's student visas, and there's also spousal visa, which are if you're married to someone here, someone can just sponsor you and come here. They just have to pay some money. So there are so many different type of visas in this country. When I came here, that was 2012, and I think there was no much knowledge about people, so many organizations were still not think we're still thinking that people that come from Africa didn't have much English, because it was true for so many other people that come here. They can't speak, they can't write. Many of them can't speak, can't write, can't read. So they just they just put all of us into the same basket, and that was the issue. So they didn't even want to look at me and talk to me. They just look at me and they just think, oh, maybe she can't speak properly, maybe she can't write properly, but this was this course was you have to do heaps of assessment, and you also have to do presentation. Even when I first walked into that class, the trainer said, oh, I'm not worried about everyone else in this class, but I'm worried about you, Dana. And I'm like, why? She's like, oh, because you don't have background in studying in Australia. And I'm like, okay, does that affect me being in the class? And she goes like, no, it's just that I'm not sure if you would do as well as other people who had been studying in Australia. And I said, just look at me first. And so every time I had to make sure I had done my assessment right before the due date and everything, and I would put them in and I would put extra explanation. So it's not about the visa, it's about the people out there. And also with other type, like other private visas, it's also hard as well, because when you come here you have to start from zero, just like students do. That's how other private visas do. Because if you come here and you are coming under spousal visa, you have to get a job. The difference between a student visa and other private visas is that some other visas have the working, you can work as much as you want, but student visa has restriction of 20 hours a week, which cause a lot of limitation. But we all had to struggle compared to people that come under humanitarian visa, underage people coming to Australia under family sponsorship. They sometimes have access to some government assistance, which many of these private visas do not have. And I think that's what many students here that come from Africa do, because when people who have already been here see these people that are coming from overseas, they just think, oh, what do they know? They don't actually know we do study English from as from earlier childhood education to high school. Oh, it wasn't easy because coming in with no income, and I was so excited that I was coming to get a job, and then I did. I couldn't get that job. It took me like, I came in May and I came in July of 2012, and I ended up getting that job in May of 2013. So it was quite a long time, you know. The community-based support was there, the friends and everything, but that feeling of like you can't buy anything for yourself, and being someone who was used to hustling in Kenya, it was just so difficult, you know, that I can't buy things for myself. So I was like, like I nearly lost hope that one day I will have a job actually. Actually, being Australian citizen opened a lot of doors to you. Before then, I couldn't study anything except for the things that I have to do, like, you know, things that will get me job to work with my hands. But now I'm like, you know, I can do bachelor's, I can do master's, you know, I just have to have debt from studying. But then I have to pay it upfront, you know, which is one way that it has opened up. Another way being Australian citizenship has done to me is I can actually go to hospital, I can have operation, and the government will cover it with Medicare. But before then, I couldn't do that because I'm not, I don't have access to all the government subsidies or anything, you know. And another part is that you get to, like, you know how you guys have to pay for the insurance and everything. It's option to me. I have an option of not having medical insurance, like, and they would just take it from my tax after the end at the end of the financial year. So it's so much better, and it's so much different because you have access to all these, you know. You can work in government institution, while if you don't have residency and citizenship, the Australian government are so restrict that they want to only employ their own, like, you know, their own citizen. So that's kind of like, you know, it has opened up a lot of doors for me as well. Yeah, I think it's very hard to raise children in Australia because even in Kenya, my dad was not there. Mostly, he wasn't there anyway. He comes once in a while, but we were raised by mom, me and my 6 sisters. So there's 7 of us, and yeah, she could leave us to the neighbors, and we can just be in our own compound and everything without issue. But coming to Australia, you have to book neighbor, you know, to leave your kids to the neighbor. You can't leave your children, like, even if they're not 16 years and over, you can't leave them alone in the house, which make it really hard. And when you go to put them into childcare, you have to pay like half of your salary into the childcare so they can be looked after. So comparing life, raising children and my mom used to smack us, like if we get really into her head, she would smack us in the bum and everything. But here you can't do that, like, you know. There's the way of disciplining children and the way of disciplining children in Africa and here are completely two different things. Here the children want to tell us what to do. Back home you can't tell your mom what to do. She's the one in charge and she's the leader, and you got to do what she says. But here it's two different things. So we just, like, you know, we are kind of floating, trying to balance both cultures. So it's not easy raising kids in Australia. Yeah, I think that's true. Your behavior will actually be shaped by people you are around and people you grow around. And one of the things that I realized was that because I grew up in Kenya, I used to see every Kenyan as my brother and sister. I also grew up in our culture was mostly of Sudanese culture. We went to boarding schools and then we copied the Kenyans' way of life, and then we had to we had to integrate into Kenyans' way of life. So we already had a cultural clash there. But it was African culture, so we still had that feeling of, oh, I'm African. But then when you come here, the country, the country accept you, but the culture is completely different. So you're coming to see this culture, and before we used to see Kenyan's culture as if it wasn't a good culture, and then coming to see Australian culture, and you're like, oh, this is out of I don't fit in anymore, and I don't really know what to identify it as. But I have Australian citizenship. I have Australian passport. I don't have Sudanese passport. I don't have Kenyan's passport. So I basically tell people when they ask me, I would say I was born in Sudan, which is South Sudan now. I grew up in Kenya, and I'm living in Australia. So I'm Australian citizen, but still Kenya is home. South Sudan is home as well, because that's where my parents come from and that's where I was born. And I always relate to Kenyans more compared to apart from my family members, I more relate to Kenyans. If you see the circle, and I also see other African as brothers and sisters. So if you see my circle of friendships and everything, they mostly revolve around African people. And it makes me proud because I feel like I still know my identity. I know where I come from, and I know one day I might go back. Even if I wouldn't go back, I still have that feeling I might go back one day. But I'm Australian citizen, so I'm kind of I'm happy to try anything and relate with anyone. But my feeling just always draw me to African people. That actually do affect a lot of our relationships, because as South Sudanese or as Sudanese, we had war for so long in our country, and many of us went to different places in the world, and now we're coming to meet here and we're thinking, oh, I met a South Sudanese, or oh, I met a Sudanese, and you're thinking he's your brother, your sister, but you guys have completely different cultures. And it's really affect, you sort of you come and start living with that person that you've chosen as a brother or as a sister, and you come to realize, oh, we have two different personalities. Some people have taken Arab's culture, some people have taken East African culture, and they tend to always clash. So we that are coming from let me just say East Africa, we are more of, we confront, we can speak up, and they tend to think that we are controlling. But because that's the culture that we see women do, and we believe that everyone should have right, to be respected and everything. I'm not saying the other people that come from other cultures that have adopted other African cultures don't do that, but they do that as well. But I have to speak on my side, so I don't know how they do it, but they tend to be they more of religion, of Islam and everything, where women has to be covered, women has to be they have to be good girls and everything. But in Kenya, we've seen women succeeding and everything, so we want to be the same. I think if you surround yourself with family members, I know my family members don't agree with me with everything that I do, because I do things my own way, they do things their own way, but I always know when I'm on my knee, I can always come back to them. So what I've realized is that if you have really good relationship with your family members, They can always disagree with you, but they will always support you as well when you are at your darkest point. Another thing you can do is that you need to get help, you know. Getting mental health care plan is one of my things that I've done for myself. I don't really get stressed when the kids cry. I let them cry. If you hear my children crying, they can cry at the same time, and I would just be like, oh, let me just do my things, you know, because I don't want to put it into my head that, oh, they're crying and pick them up quickly and everything. That's not my thing. Another thing that I do is that when I feel like I'm losing my mind, I send my kids to childcare. And I would rather pay half of my salary to childcare than staying at home with them and then becoming like, you know, becoming really sad and angry and, you know, fighting them and everything. I would rather send them to childcare and have my peace of mind. I take that, the time that I send my kids to childcare, I take advantage of it to work so I can have extra money, because I really like to have money. I don't want to like miss my bills or anything. So when I send my kids to childcare, I make sure I'm doing something to raise a bit of money. So yeah, so it's not like I want to go for swimming, I want to go for a dance or anything, because childcare are during the day. I can go swimming, but even if I go swimming, I'm going to be relieved for that day. It's good for everyone. I'm not discouraging it. But I always try to make a bit of money because I go around selling my things. I go around like, you know, I sometimes do DoorDash to make a bit of dollars from delivering food. And yeah, so it's kind of like, you know, that's how I keep my head. So I send them to childcare so I can have break from them crying while I do raise a bit of money so I can continue to support them financially. Oh, I really like to put my kids to bed, and I like to wake my kids up in the morning. So I choose to do night shifts. So when I do night shifts, I made sure my kids have had their dinner, they have eaten, and if there's anything that I was going to assist my 7-year-old with, like assignments, I made sure he has read his book and they go to sleep on time. And then I will go work in the night. And I will finish in the morning and get home before they woke up. Some days they will wake up before me, but I will get home to make sure I will drop them to school. So that's the kind of like I balance it. And when they are at school or childcare, that's when I get some sleep. And I make sure I set my alarms. Otherwise, I'm going to sleep in. Because when I sleep, I'm sleeping. So that's how I don't really know if that is a life balance or anything. I have so many friends as well and community groups that I catch up with. So I would go in, if there's anything that is happening in the community, I would go to the community and be part of the community, because it also helps as well. Like, you know, it shows that you have a life. I don't go to too many like Sudanese dancing or anything, but anything that is organized by organization that are multiculturals and government related, I always go, like, you know, because I'm trying to learn as well. Actually, I do a lot of, I'm a person who like to work with my hands. I think that's me. I can't sit in an office for 8 hours. I will go mad. That's me. I like to relate to people, and I'm a big person that point out the social injustice in the society. And if I notice something wasn't okay, I will speak up. So what I things that I do is I have a YouTube channel, and my YouTube channel is under my name Yadell. I have Instagram. It's Danna Dell. I have Facebook. It's Danna Dell. Yeah, Dell in bracket. And I just got TikTok. I haven't done anything. I also do. I also sell things. I get few products from Kenya, and I will sell them like Royco powder, Royco cubes, like dry fish. You know, the dry fish from Kenya. Magadi salt. So all sort of things I have. I sell shoes. You know, so I kind of try to. When I'm not at work, so I take those. I always keep them in my car. So when a chance come, I talk to people about them, and I just like, and then people are always interested in seeing what you got. And that's when I make most of myself with my physical product. And thank you for watching. Continue to come in. Please subscribe